things started. The very first match of the night, and already Elsu and Ignis, no surprise there, they're gone.
Yeah, the follow-through coming through is a Malik, which means Richter's still on the board. This means Swing Phantoms, if this gets locked in, Swing Phantom must ban this Richter. If they don't, they're in major trouble because I don't think we've seen... No. Nova Esports Latin America ran Richter once and lost with it, and that is the only time Richter has lost. So, yep, that ban comes through because they have no other options, and AHQ are in control.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise there. The Malik is actually a hero that we've seen quite a bit, both picked and banned so far. I think it's just the control of that shock being able to come through, the sustainability, the cleave. We've seen a lot of it so far in competitive play, and a little bit of a surprise because it's not something that was, I mean, it was always used in the Western meta, but it was never like the must-have.
Yeah, well, I think the LATAM teams really liked Malik, and we gave them a little bit of shade for it, but I think they were kind of spot on. He's just a very, very strong melee sideline. It's very difficult to win a melee versus melee battle with him. However, I really like this from AHQ. You're going to see this AHQ draft. What they typically like are combo-focused compositions and really lightweight compositions. If you're used to watching the Valor series, compare them to Bubble Team. They run these incredibly intensive CC combo-focused compositions, and they are the only team in the world that can make them work, but they do, with a regularity that is terrifying.
It just comes down to their team synergy. It's just on a completely other level. You talked about the combo focus there from them. That's really what it comes down to. They're able to chain their CC to weave in and out of these fights like it's nobody's business. But a pretty standard opening response here. The Beneth and the Lindis. The Lindis, the most highly contested jungle, bar none so far in the AIC.
Yeah, I really like the fact that Swing Phantom got the Lindis, and we've also seen them play very, very well with that Yabenet, using them as an engagement tool. With that duo, they have a strong front line to stall out the fight, and a good back line to hover behind. And, well, managing to get the Liliana for Blake 1 is incredibly good, because his Liliana is insane.
Yeah, just adding a little bit more control and CC as well as burst potential, which they're going to have quite a bit of. So watch between this Nature's Realm going in there. So we'll see how that's across the board as well. The Crest and the Raz. Oh, actually swapping over to the Alistair here potentially. That's interesting. What do you think about that potential pickup here?
Well, it goes back to I'm ahead of you, so I can tell you. He goes back to the Liliana.
He goes back to Liliana. Yes.
Out.
Yes, I will reset my clean feed in a second here. Don't worry.
It alarms me. We've seen Alistair considered by a lot of teams here. He was played a few times. I do not yet believe in the Alistair. I believe in the potential of the Alistair. I do not believe in the Alistair.
I would agree. I think I still need to be convinced. The lack of mobility there is definitely a bit of a red flag for me. We are seeing the Roxy denied as well as the Superman. Superman, a hero that we've seen dominate so far in the AIC, unless it's being run by a Western team.
Yeah, Superman right now is in a place where very, very good players with him are very difficult to deal with. But if you just haven't put in the hours on the combos on the character, then it's worthless. So because of that high skill cap, you'll see teams that were playing in the GCS especially really like the Superman. That's why AHQ, who were doing exactly that, ban it out. But many of the Western teams just won't know how to run it because it wasn't popular in our region. We move forward in the draft. AHQ still don't have a jungle, and they are going to get this Fennec here, which I really like, because it gives them a back line. Now, on any other team, I'd say they don't have enough pure tank. I think all they need is a little bit of dive, and this roster is perfect, because as a rule, they rely on their stuns to make up for HP. Right now, they have the Crashed, he'll take the front line, and then the pure stuns of their Raz and Valheim will make up anything else. So all they need is the ability, I think, to chase a backline, and Amarjo will provide them exactly that.
Yeah, I'm also really watching for that Metamorphosis into Chainhammer Cyclone combo. That's definitely something we have to keep an eye out here for. You can just bring that together at the end. Follow up, as you said, with that Valheim, with that Raz. They're going to have the Marja and Fennec locking that in. So a very strong composition for AHQ to start this off. Just good in any direction, not really sort of focusing on any one thing. They can team fight. They have a little bit of split push potential here as well. They can jungle quickly. I love this draft.
They're looking for final side lane over on Swing Phantom, and they were really considering giving, I believe it is NTB who will be playing this final character, they're really considering giving him a ranged marksman. And it looks like they're actually settling towards the Wonder Woman instead. And this is very important because NTB in the side lanes is the highest KDA player on Swing Phantom. He's a 4.7 KDA on average. He feels like their carry at many points, giving him a more defensive character. Ooh, like the Zenial does give them the opportunity to leverage that, but I would have really liked to see him get a little bit more pure damage, because right now they're playing tank, it feels like, into pure CC and pure stuns, and AHQ, if they can land the kites, if they can back off and just burn down their HP, this looks very good for them.
Yeah, very tanky composition coming out here from them. That is terrifying to watch, so we'll keep an eye on that for sure. I do have my clean feed up to speed here, hopefully, and we will making sure we're good to go here. Awesome, so should have that resolved, no problem, as we get into this this first game here. Looking over to the draft of Swing Phantom, though, there's just so much HP that AHQ's going to have to chunk through. This might actually be a little bit difficult, especially in the early game before Valheim comes online.
Yeah, so the major question, obviously AHQ's looking for a mid lane power spike. Or a mid-game power spike. That's what they do very, very well. They play to their win condition. So I expect if AHQ are playing this well, which they generally do, they'll be playing back, playing safe, not really going for any fights, just finding map control until we get to about the mid-game, when that Valheim comes online, when that Raz comes online, and then they will dominate.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very over. Hell, it's about time.
And Swing Phantom do have their fourth now chance at this early game. AHQ were able to win out the minuscule bits of early game we saw prior, thanks to those set rotations you were complimenting. We talked a whole bunch about how the defensive start is actually good for AHQ because they play mid-game so well with this composition. And again, look at this, Swing Phantom play defense across the board, and AHQ were taking advantage of it.
Yeah, AHQ being a little bit more aggressive this time around. So we'll keep an eye out for that as they look to pressure in onto the jungle of Swing Phantom. Han, once again, just going to be sitting in the same tried and true jungle pattern. But we've seen it fail a few times now for Swing Phantom. They need to do something differently this time around. And once again, we're seeing Polo taking a lot of damage in the mid. There's the knock of the follow-up. The Thief's Mark is there to try and chunk him down, but he will be able to escape.
Yeah, he'll get away narrowly with the Redwood Rush, but you can already see the power of that team play from AHQ. We've complimented it before. They are able to bring 3 members to the mid lane the second a threat is expressed there. They always have J-Jack. Watch J-Jack's rotations. He's their team captain, and he's perfect. And whenever there's an opportunity to follow through on team play, whenever they want to push forward, J-Jack, like right now, is there to help out with the fight.
I'm keeping an eye on him, especially once level 4 comes online and these Metamorphosis are here, but Han is maybe picking a fight that he shouldn't be here as the rotation is there from Hack, and that is going to be first blood. Beautiful collapse from AHQ.
Beautifully done indeed. As AHQ get their first blood, they'll try and immediately turn it into a Spirit Sentinel, which means they're able to build up a significant gold lead, and they're not resting on their laurels. They keep this 3-man core together and feed their jungle Rush not only a Spirit Sentinel, but a Might Golem, and half of Swing Phantom's jungle as well.
This is massive. You think a lot of teams would have instantly started looking towards that Abyssal Dragon there, and Rush not quite able to get that last minion, but instead AHQ is like, look, we see this red buff spawning. We see an opportunity, an opening. We know we've gotten this key kill. Let's set Han back even further. Forget the death. Half your jungle is gone.
Yeah, and this is something that AHQ do very, very well. When they find kills, they convert them.
And that's something that you're gonna we're gonna have to see Swing Phantom start to do as well, as they are looking towards this Abyssal Dragon now. We'll see if AHQ is aware of this. I believe they are. They're going to look to start to collapse on this. The damage has started as well. As J-Jack's going to look to go in. The Metamorphosis is there, pinning Han into the corner. The fall of the Angelic Splendor. Rush is getting chunked down to the back from Polo. Nicely done. Able to get himself out. And through all of that, though, we did actually see AHQ able to pick up that first Dragon. And now Polo, the last man standing.
Polo will flee behind the tower, and just like you say, that's an impressive start for AHQ. Swing Phantom felt like they were pressed into challenging for that Abyssal because they didn't. They were guaranteed a loss. But AHQ had the vision. They always had Sun playing down bottom, and Sun is a very good role player. Oh my god, this is such a good setup.
Oh no, Hack just comes in through the back, pushes
Oh
him
my
on in.
goodness.
The uppercut is there. They just strictly delete that Xennial.
Just like I was saying, AHQ have some of the best set plays in esports, period. The idea that they know exactly how they can bring up the rotates to get that pick, and then again, they don't rest on it because they now enforced another pick. They now know that they're able to carry the lead they earned in the Abyssal fight over to a one-man man advantage still now, and they're going to carry that forward to still more jungle pressure. And because AHQ are continually doing this, they're going to challenge for the tower.
And I love this too because they can trust Sun to just be able to win his lane so convincingly. They can stay as his three-man core. On this Marja, he just will not lose that lane matchup, which, I mean, now finally Swing Phantom is starting to get some pressure of their own, but it's just too little too late. They're already behind 2k gold.
Yeah, this is what I meant when I was asking them to play a little bit aggressive during the early game, because if you give AHQ map control, they do this to you. And they're not going to take direct fights. AHQ don't do that. They don't take fair fights, at least not until the mid-late game. Instead, they're focused during this early game on finding individual picks, out-rotating you and out-macro-playing you, so they don't even need to win the micro. And I love that.
Oh, speaking of micro, Polo pulling off some sick moves in the mid, able to get himself out, utilizing that Nature's Realm to tank through that damage. But Hack's going to look to try and find the snipe. Ooh, nice dodge there. But all the while, AHQ is finding value on the map. Now the full rotation, the collapse is coming here into the top lane. NTB needs to try and defend this, but it's going to be very tough as all the while Swing Phantom are trying to get something on the map. Then meanwhile, up top, the tower falls in trade for a dragon. Questionable decision.
That's a good decision for Swing Phantom because they need the gold more than they need towers, but AHQ are now on a timer. They want to finish out the game quick. Swing Phantom's pickup of the Abyssal Dragon will help them take fights, help them slow down the speed of that game take, but I'm not going to lie, AHQ are very happy. And again, you see, this is about macro versus micro. They didn't need to win the team fight because they knew they could win the overall map control game.
And I love J-Jack just being the leader for the team, going in, Hack under the tower, getting that sweet damage, able to burn out that Essence of the Wind as well. So that was actually a huge cooldown, and now Paulo was stuck between a rock and a hard place in the mid. The damage coming through from Valheim is more than enough from Chaser.
Whew, nicely done. Chaser anchoring mid, making sure the wave there stays in their control because they already press top lane. They know they can pull their top laner down to mid and kind of rotate their entire formation to have an extra 4-man push in bot lane because they had wave up top so far pushed. Even if there'd been a dedicated split pusher from Swing Phantom, AHQ wouldn't have had to pay attention to it for a while. Again, really good map control play.
They put the pressure in towards that dragon side. They say, okay, that's fine. We're not going to get, we don't get this. That's fine. We won't overcommit. We'll rotate back to mid. We'll get the pressure in there. And Swing Phantom just cannot do anything. They haven't grouped yet. Like, they haven't taken, other than that one disastrous fight on the dragon, they just haven't been making any plays.
And a lot of teams look like this versus AHQ, and it's because they make you look silly. Because it's so hard to get a beat on where AHQ's players are, because you see this quick rotation game just to make sure they're in control of all the fights.
Speaking of fight, Polo is dropping the Nature's Realm, and the Angelic Splitter coming in from NTB on the flank, and nice Ghost Walk into the back. Now NTB is totally split from his team, and we talk about converting kills into objectives. It looks like AHQ is going to do just that as they rotate towards this Abyssal Dragon.
And they'll be able to pick it up. There's almost no way for Swing Phantom to stop it, even if they wanted to. And right now, it's not something they should be thinking about. Again, it's so hard to plug into AHQ's rotations because they're always so intelligent about it. Instead of grouping up and playing counter, you need to gain knowledge of where AHQ are and counter them on a macro level as well as winning the individual fights, both of which are very difficult versus a team this good.
Yeah, so look at the mechanics from Hack being demonstrated there. There was a good initial dodge, but put himself in a position.
You see, again, he wasn't just screwed because he got out microed in the team fight. he was in trouble because they brought not just Hark up there, but J-Jack as well. So the initial engage could come through from the high mobility character, and if the correct movement was made to dodge away from the high mobility character, maybe get to a bush, J-Jack's there on the crash to make sure there's no way to escape. Really good overall map communication play from AHQ.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to hear what their comms sound like in a game like this. I imagine they're probably saying super calm through all this and just following the calls that are being made. And I just love this positioning from Crashed. J-Jack, he is always putting himself in harm's way. The first person to scout, the first person to take damage or do damage is going to be him, and allowing his carries to do, well, just that, to carry.
Yeah, J-Jack is my personal favorite support in the whole wide world because he is so very good at engineering the perfect engages for his team. And here, the fact he's pressing jungle means it's an easy Dark Slayer, and they're looking to finish game.
They're looking to lock this one up right now, as down in the bottom lane, a lot of damage has already been done, and J-Jack just able to escape with ease and making time for the rest of his team to rotate in and rush. Look at how quick he takes this down. They have the Drake, but they're setting up all 3 lanes for this unison push. Watch how AHQ executes this.
You can see the top lane, Valheim-Raz duo, while J-Jack sets up in mid. Chaser's just been roaming free. He's got wave push, he's got full pressure there, and J-Jack is again here to rotate through, to make sure to draw away focus, all the while Swing Phantom rotate up top to deal with that, and the Drake's down bottom. They've got a tower.
Sun goes in, clears the wave, Rush and Drake push the tower down. The whole squad is here going onto the high ground. Polo is going to look to go in, try and maybe pop the Nature's Realm. He is going to, but he's just getting chunked through all this on top of the Chain Hammer Cyclone. Beautiful counterplay there coming out from that Fennec, and all the while the Drake is pushing this down. Valheim, Chaser doing work up top. There's the Metamorphosis pushing Blake back into the core. The high ground tower already falls. All 3 high ground towers under threat. Going in, trying to make something happen is Polo. Pulling back Rush onto the core. Rush might actually be in trouble here. He is going to fall. Chaser as well in a world of hurt, but the core is starting to defend right now. A bit of a misplay there from Rush, putting himself way out of position, and now Sun is also potentially going to fall.
Sun, normally the frontline side lane for this team, is needed to be in a position like this, and he does it so well. When J-Jack isn't there to play defense for Hawk, Sun can rotate through and take that same role on a margin, nonetheless. A character who's traditionally pretty squishy is able to get into the right position, Ghost Walk at the right time, find his necessary disengage, and earn AHQ another shot. They take 2 high grounds, and they're able to back off.
So that was either the most fantastic Redwood rush there from Polo, or we actually saw Rush. Oh, there's the lasso way too far there, Sarah, if that was not where you wanted to be.
Oh my goodness!
Jeez, that lasso has some range when it was catching J-Jack right on the edge of that leap right there.
It was the very end of the lasso range, just as J-Jack aquatic leaped away. So the lasso became a rubber band that flung him much further than I thought he anticipated.
But NTB as well is going to be trying to fling himself out of this engage, but the stun goes on through. Oh, no, you hate to see it.
Bye! And poor NTB, he's one of the star players for Swing Phantom. Missing him and his angelic splendor right now is crucial. And this was kind of what I highlighted during the draft phase, if you remember, 2 hours ago. I said Swing Phantom needed to have backline pressure, and they don't have the potential. The one fight they've even sort of held on in was where they're able to shut down the backline. They have not repeated that. It needs to be about getting Rush. It needs to be about burning Chaser if they want to be able to win these fights.
They literally can't kill Chaser. He literally learned during that he could lifesteal through Nature's Realm. And that's terrifying.
And that's why I felt AHQ had won the draft phase so dominantly. But you can also see kind of the beauty of AHQ. They're uninterested in hanging around these fights that aren't gaining them anything. Instead, they back up and they focus the enraged Abyssal, because there was nothing to be gained by hovering near the enemy base. That's a mistake we see a lot of really high-level teams make, just not know what fights literally don't gain them anything.
Yeah, that's the thing. They are maximum efficiency. That is what this team is really all about. They are economy of motion. No action is wasted.
And because of that, they've now got the team find buff from the enraged Abyssal Dragon in the next 1 minute. And it's going to be very difficult for Swing Phantom to stay disengaged. However, they did do a really good job of clearing waves, so AHQ are going to need to be very efficient about getting those waves against the base in order to challenge during the duration of the buff.
So now we're going to see them push in right now. Rush is going to be doing so much damage as they have the minion waves crashing in here. Han is going to be using these traps to try and clear out these minion waves as best he can. He is able to do so, but look at this high ground. They are forced back into a corner. This is just opening for JJ. The Metamorphosis, watch him on the flank. He's going to try and lock everybody down here the second that becomes available, and watch for them to go on in right now. I think Swing Phantom's in a world of hurt. There's the Chain Hammer Cyclone to start things off. Sun is there on the flank as well. They're just getting chunked down, ripped apart. Look at the HP bars. The second minion gets in wave, the tower gets chunked, but it doesn't even matter. Look at the health. It's just gone from Swing Phantom.
Yeah, and AHQ again are not overcommitting. They're taking their time here because they don't really have a wave. So they're just seeing what pokes they can find, what abilities they can waste, and then they'll go for the engage when their minions arrive.
Rush aims immediately, splitting Han from the fight as Xerath is going in, trying to sustain, but not nearly enough. We see a beautiful job there on the Metamorphosis. Blake is destroyed, Paulo to follow. Ooh, the snipe there from that Raz.
My goodness!
Just...
that was an insanely long-range Valheim.
Oh no, as now NTB is just body checked into the boards. That is going to be GG. Like you said, TJ, 2 hours later, that's it. AHQ takes game number 1.
And that is kind of the AHQ I expected. That's the AHQ this tournament needs. It might not be the one it deserves, but it's the one it's getting. That is the world-beating AHQ on track for their second title. They have one more game here versus Swing Phantom, and they did expose some weaknesses. Swing Phantom, that is what a good game versus AHQ looks like, because they did find value. NTB was a notable weakness for their team. That aggressive side lane, who should normally be the star of the team, got shut down. But what we did see were fights where it was obvious they couldn't find anything if Rush was shut down, if their backline damage sources weren't online. So if you switch NTB off of the solo tank, put him onto more of a backline damage, I really think he can find value by shutting down Rush, by shutting down Chaser.
I agree. I feel like they just had, other than maybe trying to go with Redwood Rush, they didn't have any way to set these fights. And you called this. The Wonder Woman needed to go in, needed to set the bracelets to submission. But we just never saw that. They had no backline burst damage. Rush was able to solo zone out Han in that final fight with the Chain Hammer Cyclone and then just to decimate the rest of it. I mean, other than that one mispositioning there under the court, like, it really seemed like AHQ was in full control. They only kind of lost a single team fight in that entire game and only gave up 3 kills.
And it was, I think, a whole bunch about not just the control that they were able to afford, but the map control. We talk about this a lot with AHQ. IT City Bacon from Thailand was kind of able to match them on it. And people coming from Western AOV, sorry, Western teams, aren't used to seeing it. But there is a whole nother metagame that gets played just about the rotations here. And I feel like when you see a team that is extremely good at executing on that level, and you see a team that's never really had to face that, get their first exposure, they do what we just saw Swing Phantom do, which is turtle, back up. Because they all of a sudden are noticing these 3-2 rotations, these 4-1 rotations coming out across the map to perfectly ensure AHQ are able to leverage 4v1s, and they don't know how to deal with it. And the correct answer is one of two things. Either if you're even on level, you perfectly counter the rotation. You bring your 4-1 against their 4-1, and you take the 2 even team fights. Or if you're behind, you can actually force the opposite by, if they're bringing 4 players to bot lane, you take all 4 to top, find pressure, and then you have a chance to trade even despite being behind in terms of tower, in terms of gold game, and that's incredibly powerful. So I'm looking for a little bit better macro play coming out from this Swing Phantom side coming into game 2, because I do think AHQ were playing a little bit passive at times here, and maybe a team that's a little bit more aware of the overall macro could take advantage of that.
I agree. I feel like a team who had a little bit of better idea of where their opponents are. That's the thing. AHQ always seemed to know where their opponents were. Swing Phantoms was never in a position where they were secret at all, whereas it seemed like oftentimes Swing Phantom was getting totally caught out. They had no idea where AHQ was about to pop up next, but AHQ seemed to be completely at ease, just find a pick here, find a pick there, rotate there. Like, their game plan, as you said, was so well executed, but Swing Phantom had no idea what was going on, and they weren't able to adapt even over the course of an entire game or multiple starts of multiple games.
And if I'd like to highlight one reason for that, I'd say it's Jack. If you're not familiar with the man who was playing Crash that last game, he's their team captain, and it shows that he's the shot caller in how well he finds overall map control. When you're seeing him press into the enemy jungle and constantly find value and find map knowledge, and then the team executes perfectly on that knowledge, it's because he's the shot caller, and he's oftentimes the tip of the spear in that tank rush.
Yeah, we see him as the one, setting up these initiations on that Crash, looking for those flank metamorphoses, looking for so many openings, those cracks in the armor, and so unfortunately for Swing Phantom, they kind of gave him some openings there.
Mm-hmm. And it showed when Swing Phantom were getting overwhelmed by those during the early mid game. You saw multiple times they'd just bring 3-4 players up and grab an isolated player in top lane. That was because Jack had pressed into the jungle and he'd figured out there was nobody from Swing Phantom that could instantly rotate. And the way you counter that if you're an equally strong team is you need to have either your support or your jungle patrolling and making sure that your solo laners aren't getting pulled out because you have control of the jungle, so there's no way to flank in.
Yeah, it seemed like Jack was constantly functioning as that sort of mobile ward that we often see the supports function as. But I didn't really feel that same, thing from Swing Phantom there. It just kind of felt like Polo he was just kind of sitting in mid. He was kind of hovering. Yeah, sometimes he would go and scout for his team, but he just never felt nearly as impactful, partially, I think, because of the incredible mid play. Every single time anybody walked in rain, Raz was just, well, now you're slowed, and now half your health is gone, and now you're probably about to be killed. We'll see if the cycle can be broken here as we get into game number 2. The draft is about to begin. Let's get this going.
Okay, I want to talk bucket list. What can Swing Phantom add to their draft phase that I think will noticeably improve it? I'd really like it, if possible, for them to get a little bit more backline punish. We saw multiple times AHQ do a bad job if they weren't able to bring their 2 backlines, Rush and Chaser, to the fight. So if you have maybe a little bit extra dive, I think that's very valuable. Also this, maybe consider banning out the Valheim. I would have said phase 2, because now both Richter and Elsu are on the cards. AHQ will probably ban Richter because he is that broken.
Oh.
This leaves... Ooh, they're considering Elsu. If they do this, it is going to be an instant Richter.
Look at that head shake. Look at that head shake.
Yeah, because that's insane. Because Elsu is good, but not broken.
No.
And Richter is broken. So that head shake you just saw from the Swing Phantoms player is, oh my lord, AHQ are entirely confident playing versus Richter.
That's wild. That's the, okay, you're going to give... So, if AHQ still take this game, it'll be off of the back of some seriously stellar play. Because the Richter...
Well, what I'm interested to see is what is the Richter count. Because we've seen a few people try a few different characters, and it's widely considered you need to sustain melee. So this Malik might be it. This Malik might be the Richter count.
Yeah, actually, that makes a little bit of sense, too. He's got the sustainability, he's got the true damage, the cleave. And the shock is going to be able to not only dive the backline when need be, but also get out of some potentially precarious situations. I don't mind this. The Violet hover as well, coming in for Swing Phantom as well as the Ailster. Interesting decision. Violet Okay.
Again, a poke composition from them. The Alistair, I think, will... Again, like I talked about earlier, I'm not on the Alistair train. Though he has a ton of CC, though he has a ton of damage, I feel he doesn't have the mobility. So if you're going for a poke comp, yeah, Akali is actually an interesting draft. Or you could have a little bit of the dive I was asking for last game, go for a higher mobility mage. But if you're going for a poke comp, I would prefer something like Akali, because this Alistair stands the potential to, I think, just get bursted, especially versus an AHQ that's already got a Raz and a Malik. There's a ton of, oh my goodness, this is a really good dive comp. If AHQ want to go in as a 5-man unit for a team fight, that Alistair is going to be in a lot of trouble if he's not perfectly protected, which means whatever comes through in the support role from Swing Phantoms needs to have some repositioning talents to make sure that it's not just rush down Blake 1 and win the game.
See, I actually wouldn't have mind the Alice pick here, the Malice combo.
Crush gives them more engage, though.
Crush does give them a little bit more engage here, a little bit more tankiness. and we saw how good J-Jack did on that hero in the last game. So I don't mind that here as well. But you're going to have the Metamorphosis Shock combo to be executed there, banning out the Ibanez, taking Polo off of a comfortable hero. And again, it's all going to be about diving onto this Alistar. If they can delete him instantly, which you know combo-wise AHQ is capable, it's going to be very tough for Swing Phantom to recover from that.
So, we get into the second ban phase, and I'm curious what AHQ want to get rid of, because it will tell us what they're thinking about executing. And the fact that they get rid of the Yabaneth is really telling again that they're going for a dive engage composition. Once you get rid of the Yabaneth, there is very little, except maybe an Aurum, that can have those repositioning, complete push, shutdown tools I was talking about needing from a support. If you, again,
there's
repositioning tools from the Superman, in order to stop the dive from landing on the Blake. AHQ have banned out both the major ones, I would say, that could prevent them from just being able to roll through. I would go so far as to say they might run an assassin in the jungle role here, because at the very least they want to keep up the momentum during team fights. They don't want to have to worry about protecting their backline.
Speaking of rolling through, the Fennec being banned here by Swing Phantom, I actually don't like that ban here, because I feel like the Fennec was a very specific pickup here into the heavy tank composition. And as you mentioned, I feel like they're going to go for something a little bit more aggressive. I actually don't think that Fennec was even going to be a consideration here for AHQ. It could be wrong, but as I said, I feel like they're going to go for something a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, Fennec's good, but again, if you run the Fennec with this composition, you need to worry about protecting the Fennec. And AHQ, I don't think really want to have to double back. And yeah, like I said, they want a melee with this composition. This is an extreme early game rush down comp, especially with the addition of this Batman.
I agree, and if they can get something like a Marja in that last pick to fill out their side lane here, that could be absolutely huge. More dive, more self-sustain, more ability to go in and do damage. They could just obliterate a backline.
Yeah, so look at the support options left. You need to choose Jognar because Malik crashed. You have to run a Jognar into that. But also, this means there's nothing that can keep Blake 1 safe. I think they've just lost this off of the Alistar pick. The side lane also having stun tools is a good choice. I agree with the idea to pick up the Wonder Woman as well as kind of a secondary support. But if they can't protect Blake 1 and Han, it will not matter.
It will not matter at all. The braces of submission while providing that shield, while having that stun to try and slow down that initiation. It's going to be tough. The timing on the Chaos Protection is going to have to be perfect. And then Violet's going to have to do some crazy splash. I don't think it's viable.
I think you could do a side lane marksman with this comp. Because they've just seen the Wonder Woman. I think AHQ could run a side lane marksman with this comp. Instead, though, they'll go full dive. And I approve.
Yeah, I was going to say, Marja I would have liked, because it's obviously a very strong soul laner. A little bit of range poke in there as well, which is something they only really have in the Raz. But instead, looks like they're going to go towards this Omen here. More all-in dive. They're going to have the ability to lock one person down. That Death's Embraced. If it's Han or Blake 1, that's GG.
Okay. I think this is... Yeah, I really do think this is one of the most dominant draft victories we've seen yet. AHQ walking away with an incredibly aggressive composition, and it felt like Swing Phantom didn't catch on until after the second draft phase, when they went, oh shoot, what do we have left that can stop this dive? The Richter is their hope. If the Richter can win the early game side lane, then maybe towards the mid-late game we get to see that Violet come online, that Alistar come online, and then be a serious threat. During the early game, if AHQ go for full team fights, you're going to see that Malik Crash double engage, followed through by Omen, followed through by Batman, picking off specific targets. Omen is a specifically good pick into this composition because you have so many characters as the punish on the AHQ roster that do very, very well against isolated targets. The Batman, the Raz, if they can find someone trapped in a Death's Embrace, they're guaranteed to pick up the kill.
Oh yeah, they're going to lock that down, no problem. So much fairly easy combo execution here for AHQ, considering what we know they're capable of. So this is going to be their game to lose right now, at least in our humble opinion, as we get into game number 2. Backs against the wall now for Swing Phantom, now on the left-hand side. So let's keep an eye out there. Blake 1 is going to need to play the best Alistar we've ever seen.
It's not impossible. Alistar has a ton of stun tools. If he's protected well by Polo and he uses his stuns well, then we can see this work out. But to be blunt, I think AHQ's full rushdown will make that very difficult.
Yeah, well, we'll watch for that in the fights. If Hailstor can get the flicker out, potentially try and escape, can lay down the walls like he needs to, and we have to talk about the Richter. The Richter is going to be able to go in, has that CC immunity, is going to be able to do some damage to the backline in response. So we have to watch NTB. We asked for him to be in a more aggressive damage-dealing character. Now we're seeing the knockup going on to Sun, and already we're seeing a much better position from him.
Yeah, one of Richter's abilities, if he attacks from a bush, he always has a knockup. You can see that charge up and then activate there. So he's going to be very, very good if he can play the map well in that top lane. And you will see that. Again, we said we needed to see a more aggressive NTB. We said we needed to see a backline threat. Problem is, that was versus the last composition. Right now, versus this AHQ, we need to see them stop AHQ's teamfight engage, which is very different from the AHQ that was playing at a poke grind last game. And it is just as much on AHQ to adapt as Swing Phantom. AHQ need to be grouping up a lot more, and they need to be executing early team fights. Now, we know they can run this composition. They did so several times during the GCS regular season, but maybe Swing Phantom can exploit a weakness in it if they're able to last to the mid-late game.
Well, now Chaser's the one in a rough spot, getting the cleave on through, and now J-Jack there to help split this up. Oh, man, Xerath just getting forced back. And this is amazing to me, how AHQ played this out, because they said, that's fine, we're going to willingly give up Richter, a hero who's exceptional at diving into that squishy backline. And then the response was, we just won't draft a backline. And now they're in a position where they can very easily take this first Abyssal Dragon. Chaser survived beautifully. The support from J-Jack was flawless, splitting and shutting down that initiation from Swing Phantom with ease.
And I'd like to highlight Chaser there pressing into the middle of the enemy team so that he could get the cleave lifesteal on more targets.
It's just phenomenal to watch, just getting that going on through. And now we're seeing the invade, the pickup there onto Blake as predicted, rushing down those opponents, utilizing this early game prowess that is Batman. Polo is going to walk into the wrong bush friend as Blake is able to not only pick up a key kill, also steal himself a little buff.
And it is all about enabling Rush during this early game. They need to power farm him. Batman is most terrifying when he's several levels ahead. And guess what? Right now, he's the highest level on the team and higher level than anyone on Swing Phantom, which means if he's able to get into these fights during the early game, expect his ultimate especially to nearly one-shot people.
Yeah, he's just gonna appear out of nowhere, blindside you, give you a forearm to the face, and pick up some clean kills.
So it's all about that combo execution. Watch for Metamorphosis into Shock, or vice versa, followed by a Death's Embrace, and then Rush with the Caped Crusader going in for the kill.
Watch for, yeah, that execution is going to be solid here as Polo. Man, he's supposed to be the tanky support there for the team. Hack just doesn't miss skill shots. Like, it's wild to watch this guy play.
Yeah, Hawk is one of the best mid laners in the world, and it shows. He's not nearly as flashy as some, but he's extraordinarily consistent.
At least Han able to pick himself up a red buff here, because into the consistency of someone like Hawk, you just have to play, you have to make those flashy plays yourself, because we're seeing now AHQ getting kills under towers with ease. The way J-Jack's able to execute that, provide those aquatic shields, it's tough to deal with.
And what they did a really good job of there was AHQ rotating the three-man core down while still threatening mid. By the time Swing Phantom realized that there was pressure on that bot lane, they'd been completely cut off from reinforcing the tower. Now they focus on reinforcing the tower, and AHQ are no longer threatening lane, they're picking up an Abyssal.
And just the fact that HQ is able to instantly convert that. There's no... Normally we see teams like there's the shock call, and then there's the action. It's maybe a second or 2 seconds before that's, oh, okay, this is where we're going next. AHQ are cerebral. They all... Yes, we have that strong shock caller, but they're all so in sync that they're moving before he even has to say anything. They know exactly what's next. They just have such a deep knowledge and of the game as a whole.
And I would say that Swing Phantom could win the late game. I will say they have a better chance in the late game because Alistar and Violet will do very well. But because of the AHQ roster, they have Omen, they have Raz, they have Malik in the late game. That's terrifying. Sure, the Batman falls off a bit. Sure, the Crest falls off a bit. But they have just as many players who are strong in the late game.
Yeah, I mean, again, hyper late game, maybe Swing Phantom can make something happen. I mean, we saw that 53-minute game in the West. You know, we saw Grizzly Q playing, on that Chognar. He actually had the most damage here. Down in the bot lane, Xerath is trying to 1v2 and just not able to make that happen. No surprise there. So you see a fight breaking out once again in the jungle. That was JJX going with Metamorphosis, but not able to pick anything up. Is Han is just going to walk himself away.
And J-Jack's pushing wave in the meantime, making sure to find more value than ever. Again, cutting out the wave pressure. Now, they're not actually going to convert that because they don't have enough players in the bot lane to really spread that through to a tower take. But because they cut that wave, that forces the Alistair of Blake 1 to spend more time in the bot lane. Because they know from the minimap he's doing that, AHQ then rotate up top and take the top tower for free. Really clean play.
Super clean play, but we look at this compared to the last game. We do actually see, potential pick here in the mid as Hack is able to get himself out. Barely as Polo is trying to chase him down, will secure the kill. Charging on in, head down, nicely done. Unable to keep him alive was J-Jack. So I was going to say, a nice play from Swing Phantom, the fact that they kept their first tower falling till 6.5 minutes. That's actually fairly slow for AHQ.
Well, AHQ aren't always an incredibly aggressive poke team. In this case, they don't really have the same poke threat because they don't have a side lane or any marksman. So they are building towards a team fight. And if this AHQ roster can find a good team fight, I would say the game is basically over. But like you say, Swing Phantom are doing a good job stalling out, and it is towards that mid-late game that their characters will come online. Especially, I'm looking towards Han, who is an incredibly good jungler, on that Violet, and Blake 1, who's been happily farming up from lanes. However, I don't think they're farming well enough.
Yeah, they are still behind 3k gold at this point. And again, it's the little victories, able to keep these towers alive just a little bit longer. We talked about how aggressive the draft is from AHQ. They're starting to keep that pressure, or continuing that pressure now into the jungle. But again, that's why I was a little bit surprised. We know how much they want a team fight here, but they haven't been able to do as good of a job in this game. And you mentioned this, not having that marksman, of converting these kills into objectives, specifically towers.
And AHQ don't even need a kill to convert it into an objective. The second they figure out that Swing Phantom are doing, like we talked about last game, they don't know what's going on, so they group up. That defensive turtle strategy means AHQ go, okay, well, we'll just take a dragon, and now we'll press this tower.
But Xerath did a fantastic job of pushing the back. Xerath, the highest KDA on the team in game number 1, showing his prowess there, utilizing that all perfectly to blow up the wave and keep that tower alive. Still only one tower to the name of AHQ.
I hate to highlight how AHQ's rotates are again, but you see them find pressure in the top lane, so they know that they don't actually need to guard top lane for a while. So they brought down Sun to duo team mid, make sure that while that bot dive was happening, there was no way to win against Hark and mid. Now that they have extra backup for him in mid, he rotates back top and ensures they'll have more pressure there.
And Sun is also super fed at this point. He's able to blow up the waves in an instant. Xerath this time around, though, actually might be able to get the minion there, and he does. But still, Rush with Chaser there to tank for this. Look at that team play as J-Jack is putting the fight as well. Once again, going in the same bush. 3 times we've seen the Metamorphosis, 3 times pushing back Swing Phantom.
Because he plays there, he's able to cut off the sensible rotate down. Even if you go for a defensive long rotate through the jungle, you still have the opportunity to get intercepted because J-Jack is just hovering, waiting for that rotate to come through. And he's able to stall up the rotate quick enough, there's no way to save that tower or punish the people who took it.
This is what we were looking for from Polo in game number 1. That positioning, being that middle that you called it the tip of the spear for his squad. J-Jack is there at the exact crux of where Swing Phantom could potentially rotate to shut down that push. He is there, Metamorphosis in hand, also a trident to shut it down.
And that is really darn fun to watch.
Now we see Swing Phantom, though. Yeah, it's a tough position. You're down 5k gold, but you've only lost 2 towers. It's all on the backs of Han and NTB. They need to make this happen in the late game. I'm looking at Han specifically.
And I will say, yes, Swing Phantom isn't losing ground, but they're desperately losing the economy game. And AHQ, similar to last game, they understand their win condition. Last game, it was about taking towers quickly, so they did that. This game, it's about getting so fed that you can take one team fight and win the game off of it. And I dare say they're approaching that point. If we see a 5-5 team fight right now, AHQ will win the game.
We call this this critical mass, and we're seeing it being reached right now as Rush is able to just delete in the bottom lane. Polo's going there trying to keep the team alive. Sun potentially gonna just bring him in here. No, nice counterattack as Rush is actually getting ripped down. Sun as well is in a bit of trouble there. J-Jack able to split the fight. Sun forced to flicker out, and here comes the shock going in as well. Polo's getting caught in that. The cleave going through an NTB, but Hack is on the flank just dishing damage. But still, the Elster did a fairly good job of shutting down that aggression.
Really good defensive play there. Xerath stalls up the tower stack long enough that they're able to get the back trade on the Rush, and actually AHQ may have waited too long. You saw Rush was struggling to stay alive during that fight, and the Alistair of Blake 1 did a great job winning out the team fight. I said if you take a 5-5 team fight, AHQ probably win the game. Swing Phantom have survived their first instance of it with some really good rotational play.
This is what we're looking for from them. This is what they need to be executing right now. They need to get themselves into the late game without losing a high ground tower. That's the key moment. Once those super minions come on through, it is so tough to deal with as a 1v1 quickly becomes a 2v1 down here in the bottom, but Sun is so difficult to deal with. Nice lasso landing there, but a miss, or I should say a great dodge from Sun as they dive in under the tower. He is going to fall.
God.
There's the collapse from Swing Phantom. That's what they needed. Now they're looking towards this Abyssal Dragon.
But it's a mistake. Look at it, all the while, that's going to be the Darkslayer pickup, and AHQ are going to be able to carry that through. And because they have J-Jack on the rotate, they can ensure there's no way to take the Abyssal Dragon. They still win this trade.
So really nice play there from AHQ. Space created. Obviously, Sun would have preferred that he didn't die through all of that. But the team identifying the committal of resources from Swing Phantom then said, look, that's fine. We know that we can now take this take this Darkslayer, and Sun did enough damage before he died that Swing Phantom didn't feel comfortable enough to taking the dragon.
I will say AHQ again are kind of playing like they're behind here, and that's because I feel their mid-game is their weakest point, again with this composition. Mid-game is when their Omen, Raz, Malik haven't quite become the late-game monsters they will, and you can see Hon from the Violet and Blake 1 on the Alistair are at their strongest. If we get towards the hyper late game, AHQ win. I do feel they've missed their opportunity to stomp the early game. Swing Phantom have done a very good job winning that critical team fight down bottom, and now beginning to work back some map control.
Looking forward here. It's also interesting taking a look at some of these builds and how these teams are adapting to what they're going against here. A fast Miramasa was actually brought out here from the Violet. So I like this decision from Han, wanting to instantly be able to rip through all the armor of AHQ, wanting to keep that damage scaling well throughout the game as the fight's breaking out of the mid as well. NTB is going to be in a lot of trouble there as HQ collapses. Nicely done, picking up the kill there. And we see another fight breaking out as the Omen is down here up against Seraph, but they receive the brace of submission. The follow-up as well from the Alistair, and the heal is forced out from Seraph, but he's still going to fall. I cannot believe how long Sun lasted before he fell.
That's what Sun does. He farms up so tanky and just stays alive. And it's worth it because they again find value. That whole exchange earns AHQ 2 more towers, and they're now threatening the tier 2. They'll probably get this as well.
We do see the initiation there from Blake. The follow-up kill onto Hack. That is so solid. The Alistair. The follow-up there from the team. What fantastic counterplay. They lose the tower, but at least they shut down the push. Oh, they lose another one, though. That's actually not worth.
Yeah, Swing Phantom are doing a really good job this game. That cannot be highlighted enough. This is quite possibly the best team in the world they're playing against, and they are eking back some of the team fights. The fact that AHQ are winning despite feeling a little bit underwhelming in the team fights right now is a testament to their team play. They've said, okay, we're now at a point where Rush isn't active, because we've got mid-game on the Batman and the Hawk Chaser aren't yet late game. So maybe we should be looking to be playing a little bit more sneaky, a little bit slow and steady. They switch styles mid-game and they fall into it very comfortably. And now it's just all about the overall map control and eking out tower gain. If Swing Phantom realize this and start brute forcing some major objectives like this, I don't know how it goes for AHQ.
Well, AHQ are going to commit on this fight. Blake 1 is in the back doing lots of great damage, but he is going to be the target. They do have the team fight buff now for Swing Phantom. He'll pick up the kills while Rush is looking to try and go in, though. But Han is getting chunked down in the back.
Diving.
And Sun is actually going in for the core right now. He's going to try and make this happen. He's the minions, and they're going back. Polo needs to try and stop this. He needs to try and kill these minions if he can.
Stop!
But that's just going to be it. Sun takes down the core. The backdoor is real. What prioritization from them? AHQ take the match.
What do you do against that? That is insane. There's no way to stop Sun from that because, again, AHQ recognize they're not going to win the team fights. They have hit that mid-game point where their composition will not work well. They make a mid-game adaptation. They put all their farm onto the Omen, and they send the Omen to ignore the entire team fight and instead dive the back line.
What beautiful decision-making from them. That call was flawless. The second they identified, look, this team fight, it's not going to go our way. That's fine. You know what is going to go our way? This game. They absolutely crushed it, identifying that they had the minion wave there. They had the potential damage with Omen, who we know can shred towers. He took down that core with ease.
I'd like to highlight that is one of the most pure AHQ games I've ever seen, because they clearly had an early game tactic. There was going to be that team fight dive, and Swing Phantom beat it. All the credit in the world to the Vietnamese team. They beat it. They played smart, they stayed defense, they farmed up Blake 1, they farmed up Han, they started winning those mid-game fights, especially Polo did very, very well in that tank role. You see him sitting there with 4 assists and 0 deaths, actually, very indicative of how well he was playing. And then AHQ made another adaptation. They said, okay, focus farm onto Sun. Now our goal is just to farm him up and make sure he can win the late game for us as a split liner.
They did such a fantastic job of that too. And again, you gotta give all the props to the world of Swing Phantom. They identified where they were losing. They identified where they needed to win. The Elster actually worked out fairly well there. Was able to play defensive, shut down the aggression. You know, able to just lock down a lot of CC every single time he threw out his ult. If it was onto a squishy, which he found fairly often, they were able to execute a kill there. So I have to give all the props in the world to Swing Phantom. They looked pretty darn solid, but you said it. That was just AHQ being AHQ.
Swing Phantom, that was a step up from what we saw during the group stage. That was definitely them adapting mid-series and really giving a fight, especially during Game 2, to AHQ. I want to see more of that Swing Phantom. And they'll have another chance. The team that they need to beat now to advance, assuming Flash Wolves lose to AHQ, then they'll play an elimination match versus Flash Wolves, and the winner of that will get through to the quarterfinals and continue their AIC dream. It is entirely possible they still get out of groups, particularly with the improvement they have now shown, not just between Stage 1 and Stage 2, but between Game 1 and Game 2 of that set.
Really, really nice play there from them, and I agree. There's definitely a chance. We can see it in some of these, fights. The fact that they're able to stay alive in ridiculous situations. Like, look at the play. The Wonder Woman, yes, ends up falling here, but just able to save towers time and time again. And look at the pick there, going on in, able to execute, pick it up, and follow up. Polo played so much better in this game. The Chognar looked so solid, able to keep his team alive in a lot of situations. In the end, though, it was just some of these final pushes that went their way, or didn't go their way, I should say, and this was the final push with the backdoor.
This team fight was just picture perfect. You could see, I was aware of it because of how they were playing the team fight. AHQ were playing so defensively that they had to be up to something, because they weren't actually going for the full team fight. They were being so smart about how they engaged and just drew out the fight. And then when I saw Sun, it all fell into place, because he was farmed up enough to absolutely challenge the backline.
Oh yeah, it was really impressive to watch. So that's the end of our very first match here. I think we're going to hop into a quick break while they get set up here for game number 2. Allow us to grab a drink of water at the end of that. We'll be back here in just a few minutes. Oh, do you have a word there, TJ?
I do. ALG versus JC. Sorry, I just wanted to shout that out. That's our next match. And Allegiance, the North American Hope, have one more opportunity, I feel, to get a word in versus one of the best teams in the world. This is where we see how far NA will get.
So don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with the hope, or one of the hopes, for the West. ALG is coming up next, guys. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.